everyone, this is Jennifer Brosnan and I'm the founder of Women of Whitehorse. I'd like to welcome you to our dinner and learn and live streams. We actually tried to do this at lunchtime today and with technology issues, it kind of didn't work. Our internet went down and poor Kate didn't know and she ended up doing quite some time on the lunch and learn today. But we're back tonight and she's had a great practice today. So we're really excited to welcome Kate Gniel, who's from Headstart Communications. Now, she's going to be talking to us tonight on how to make your business stand out in the crowd. She's going to be talking about how to boost your profile, how to build and maintain relationships, how to write a media release, and how to identify PR opportunities. So just before I bring Kate in, a couple of housekeeping issues to go through. Sometimes there's a bit of a lag, so Kate may be talking and it might be a little bit behind in the video. It may take her a little bit of time to share her screen. Sometimes there's just issues with Ecamm Live, the technology we use. And if you have any questions for Kate, please save those till she's finished her presentation, and you just need to type those in at the end and she'll be able to see them across your screen. So without further ado, let's bring Kate in. Hi, Kate. Great to see you again.
Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. All set to go this time.
Right. Well, let's. I'm going to put it over to you, and let's see if you can share your screen.
Okay.
And if we can get through this without the Wi-Fi going down. Okay. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Just bear with me. All right. Okay. Beautiful. Can you see that?
We can. Beautiful.
Excellent. Beautiful. So far, so good. All right. Thanks, Jennifer. So yes, as Jennifer said, my name is Kate Gniel. I am a public relations specialist and I have my own business called Headstart Communications. A little bit about me. I set up my business in 2009 and I was, before that, I was working in public relations in the not-for-profit and education sector, which I absolutely loved. But I went off and had my first child and decided that for me, I wanted to look at trying to work on my own and use my skills on my own and work in my own hours. And so I created Headstart Communications, and 3 children later and 12 years later, here I am, and still enjoying public relations and working predominantly with small businesses and women in business and helping them build their profile with cause-related businesses as well as services and products. It's just a huge variety and no 2 days are the same, which is why I love it. So I'm here today to share with you just a little insight into what public relations is all about, and hopefully you can go away and sort of get excited and try and see how you can use some of the things we've spoken about in to use in your business and your business plans. So let's go, let's kick it off. So first of all, I'm going to actually start with what public relations is not, which is a bit of a strange way to start. But the reason I do that is because generally when I'm talking to people I don't know and the question comes up as to, what do you do, Kate? And I'll say, oh, I'm in public relations. And generally you get 2 different responses. One is eyes glaze over and they just go, oh, that's great, which means they don't really know what it is. Or you get people who will know what public relations is, or some people will just go, oh, so like advertising. So first things first, public relations isn't advertising. And unfortunately, it's not just partying and it's not just cheek kissing and just being able to get on with people. We do have 2 of my favorite PR people in a picture here. If any of you are familiar with Absolutely Fabulous or AbFab in the UK, there's Patsy and Eddie who own their own PR agency, and they just showed how PR really isn't what it's about. It would be lovely if it was. Fridges of volley and parties, non-stop parties with celebrities, but no, not that, I'm afraid. But public relations is it's not bad, so don't be put off. So what is public relations? So public relations is really about reputation, and it's about building a stronger reputation for your business, for your product, for your service, whatever it is. And you really have to think about it from a perspective of what you do, and when you're looking at buying something, going somewhere, where you're going on holiday, whether you're what clothes you want to buy, where you're going to eat for breakfast or lunch, anything, or what books you're going to buy it because of the reputation of something that you have already heard, seen, or have been told about. So public relations is really the reputation, and it's the result of what you do with your business, what you say and what others say about you. And in that image there, it will give you a very good idea of how you can manage your image and reputation. It includes things like publicity and opinion of other people. It's awareness raising, and it's making sure people know who exactly you are. It's educating your audiences, and it's the sales funnels and that sales technique. It's also relationships and also branding. So there's so many facets that make up public relations that it makes it quite exciting. And there's no one way to look at public relations. It's just you need to have a look at it from a broader sense. But it's not mysterious. A lot of people think it's a bit of a mystery, but it comes down to a mix of old-fashioned research, a bit of savvy trend watching, and really good people skills. And it's it's good old storytelling, and it's something that we have done for many, many years, and we would do in our personal lives. So why wouldn't we do it in our businesses? This is exactly what it is. Tell your story. Be proud of your story. This is your business, and you've worked hard for this. So be proud of it and share it. And that's how you will eventually build up your reputation and continue, and then build a stronger reputation, and then need to maintain that. So as far as what good PR will do, obviously good PR will help you stand out in a crowd. And just to put it into perspective, there's over I think it's just shy of 2.5 million small businesses in Australia now, which is phenomenal. So you're actually a big fish, a small fish in a big pond. And so unfortunately, 60% of those businesses are recorded to fail in the first year of business. And of those who fail, only 50% are profitable. So really, the odds aren't great going in, but that's purely because their planning isn't necessarily there. It's not just because they have failed. There's reasons behind it. So don't be put off by that. It's just making sure that you plan ahead. And if you look at your PR and you look at the relevant PR exercises and activities that will work for you, your business, and your brand, and your service, and your product, then this will make you a success and will build on your reputation. There are so many businesses that do engage in PR activities or marketing activities that they think are good exercises to do, but they don't actually think about the results they want to achieve. They're all about the immediate results, but it's not the long-term results. So you have to be really clear about that. So for example, I'll give you an example. Bunnings, we all know Bunnings. Everybody loves Bunnings. A few months ago, or maybe it was last year, they put the onions on the sausage and bread debate into every household. And it started with it being a safety issue, and it caused a stir amongst everybody. And I'm sure you all had an opinion about that. But whether they meant it or not, out of that came actually really good PR, because even though the undertones were safety, it created a positive media opportunity for Bunnings, because people were talking about it, and people didn't get put off for going to get their sausage and bread. They just now questioned where their onion would be. So it's not, it's some things you look at it and you think, well, that's a bit of a silly story. But in actual fact, it got people talking about Bunnings in a good way. So there's so many different ways you can do that. And you want to be this green fish in the pond of fish and stand out in that crowd. And that all comes down to planning. So before you start with your public relations, you need to look at your plan. And what you need to include in your plan is, first of all, question yourself, what are you actually trying to achieve? So be really clear on your goals and objectives, and make sure they're measurable. So if you want to increase sales, how many units do you want to increase sales by, and over what period of time? And to increase brand recognition, where do you want to do that? How many more people do you want to reach? Really give some clear, concise goals that you can actually be accountable to, and that you can keep referring back to make sure that you're actually on target and on your plan. Once you're clear on those, and spend some time with that, because that's not an easy exercise, particularly if there's a few of you involved. You all have different ideas, but think about it and think really hard. But once you are clear on that, you then need to really hone in on who you're actually communicating this to, and who you want to tell about your business, your products, or your service. And this is what we call the target market. Now, you all would have heard your target market, and it's a bit of a tricky one, because when I work with a lot of clients, that when I ask them what their target market is, some of them, predominantly I work with women in business, and most of them, their target market are women. And when I say, who's your target market, and they'll say women, but really that doesn't mean anything, because women could be from the age of 18 all the way through to 110, and everyone, as we know, between that age bracket has different interests, and different things they do. So you need to be really clear and hone in on who your actual perfect target market, target audience would be. Doesn't mean to say you're putting the others out of the question. It just means you just have to really hone in on who you would like to be your perfect market, or your perfect buyer, your perfect client, your perfect customer. And then once you've actually established who you're communicating to, and you can actually come up with a persona of who it is, and a lot of my clients who are very successful, they will name their client, and it'll be Jenny, who's 35. She lives in Ringwood, and she owns her house. She works part-time. She's got 3 kids, blah, blah, blah. And she shops here. She does this. So it's understanding who the client is. So it goes down to that level, which may sound strange, but it actually does make sense when you start going forward with your PR. So once you're really clear on who you're targeting and who your target audience is and communicating to, you really need to understand how you can target these groups. And by doing that, you need to really put yourself in their shoes. So again, going back to what we were talking about, is understanding why you buy or why you use certain products or go to certain businesses. It's because of what you hear and what you see, and it's the same with your business. So you need to understand how your target market will hear about you, or will get to know about you and understand your reputation. And so that means anything from what their likes are, their dislikes, what they might read, how they access the news, whether they're Facebook users, whether they're Instagram users, or whether they're Twitter users, or whether they actually like to read a magazine, or where they go on holiday, what kind of jobs they have, and what they like doing in their spare time. This is all then gives you an idea of what they will read, so you know where to target, what they're listening to, so you know where to target, and where they might spend their time, so you know what they're doing in their spare time, to know where to target and see what people do in that when they're in their spare time. So it's just sort of understanding that. So make sure you have your what, who, and your how really clear before you start doing anything else. Once you have that, you're on your way. So public relations train, here we come. So once you've done that, you have to question, why do PR? What does it do? So PR can do so many things for you, as well as your business. It can boost your profile, your personal profile. It can also boost your business profile. It can help you gain publicity and increase your reputation, which is really important. It can also help you gain greater exposure and expand that reach of that target market you want. You want as many people in that target market to know who you are. And it also could create new business opportunities. So it's really important to make sure that you are open to things, but you're also looking around and seeing what opportunities there are around there for you. But the key to anything with PR, it's like anything, is once you start, you can go out guns blazing, which is fantastic. But it's then making sure you have that momentum, and making sure that you maintain that momentum, and you don't just go out guns blazing and then there's nothing for months or a year, and then there's another one, and it doesn't help build your reputation or help with any confidence building from your target market. So you've just got to be clear and make sure you go back to your plan and you've got all the ideas already in there. So you're not thinking on your feet all the time. You can plan ahead, and that's why planning is really important in PR. So one thing this is one of my favorite phrases that I always think it really highlights what public relations is about. And it's from little things, big things grow. And if you remember nothing else, go away with this from this presentation, because this is just a reminder that you don't know where your next customer or client or supplier or anything is coming from. So no matter how big or small you think an opportunity might be, it's always worth exploring. And so, make sure, just remember, just because you might think at the time it might not be relevant, it's definitely worth having that conversation, because you don't know where that conversation might lead and what networks that might open you up to. So always remember that. And if I was doing this face to face, I always send my attendees home with a little sachet of sunflower seeds to remind them that from little things, big things grow. So yeah, always remember that. So you've got your plan. You're starting to get things going. You're getting excited about public relations, and it's you're now building and maintaining reputation. And how do you do that? Who have you got? Who are you talking to, and how can you do that? So there's so many ways of doing this, and this isn't just a definitive list. There's lots of others, but this just gives you an idea, a broad brush idea of who you need to be talking to help build and maintain your reputation. And for example, it's be proud of who you are, firstly, because you've done an amazing thing and you've started your business. So be proud of that and make sure you tell people everything about you. But obviously there's a fine line. Don't become the party bore and talk about nothing else but your business. So for instance, your suppliers, keep in touch with your suppliers beyond asking them to send you things or ordering things. Do you give them an impromptu thank you? Do you invite them out for coffee or lunches or to an event or something that you're holding? Or do you send them end of year gifts? It swings both ways, and you never know, again, what avenues and networks they weave in and what doors can open for you. So always be open to that, but always look after your suppliers, because without them you wouldn't have your business. Similarly, existing customers and clients, they are crucial for your business. So without them, you would have nothing. So question, how are you looking after them? Because we all know it costs way more to find new customers and clients than it does to retain the ones that we've currently got. So how are you making them feel special and feel part of your business family, if you like? Are you offering them discounts? Are you giving them exclusives? Are you communicating with them regularly through newsletters or through anything? Are you talking to them on your social media, interacting with them? There's so many ways now that we can communicate that it's actually quite simple, but it's also time. So it's just allocating that time. But the investment in the time you spend with your client, your current customer base or client base, you'll reap the benefits in no time, because they will tell other people how amazing you are. So they do your job for you. The other thing as well, how you can build and maintain your reputation, is by, you're already doing it because you're already part of the Women of Whitehorse, is by being part of networking groups and events. And this is really important to get to meet other people and like-minded people and talk about your business. And again, it's those opportunities. You just don't know who's in the room, and you don't know what collaborations and partnerships you might actually be able to get out of just meeting people and who they might know. It's never a closed door. And as I just said, there's collaborations, and collaborations can mean absolutely anything. It doesn't have to be paid collaborations. It can be what we call contra deals, and it's all things that work together. But you have to be really clear on your collaborations or partnerships, if you like. So, for example, some aren't so great. There was an example that I found whilst I was researching for the presentation, that BWS, Beer, Wine and Spirit, they actually partnered with the not-for-profit campaign called Dry July, which encourages people not to drink during July to raise money for certain charities. So Beer, Wine and Spirits, Dry July, you have to question, the irony really isn't lost on anyone. And consequently, the campaign, I don't believe, was hugely successful, as you can imagine. So you do have to question what your partnership is, but that doesn't mean to say there isn't something you can do there, that probably wasn't the best partnership that they could do. That said, I'm currently working with a lady who's launched a book about aimed at women in sort of their mid to late 30s to mid to late 40s, about how they can become financially independent and financially fit. And so rather than continually promoting her book to sell, we actually approached a not-for-profit organisation called Dressed for Success, who help women who are just trying to start over and find jobs and get them ready for interviews and get them dressed and get them back on track. And so as a result of it, of just putting an email out to them and contacting them to see if there are any opportunities, my clients now offering free workshops to their client base about money mindfulness. and that's going to continue to roll out. That's not how we had no anticipation of what would come of the introduction, but that's what they've come back to us with, which is amazing. So it just helps build, again, that reputation. Doesn't immediately sell books for her, but it helps to build that reputation. So you've got to look outside of the box. The other thing is attending events. Now, after 2 years of having no events, they're back in there. And so it's now getting back out there and attending those events and getting off the screen, which would be quite nice. And just making sure that you're also, if you, it's an industry event, if you need to have a stall as well, and just being at those events and being present and networking again. Networking is really key to really good PR, because that's again, building and maintaining that reputation. It all comes back to that. And social media presence is huge, and it's something that you either love or you hate. Unfortunately, you have to learn how to love it. Social media has to become your friend, and because that will help build and maintain your reputation in so many ways. And that means, it doesn't mean you have to be on social media 24/7. It just means that it's a forum for you to actually share, again, with your target audience, what you're doing, and promote the news that you would be doing anyway. It's just snippets. And it's then also following and commenting on people in your industry, and your suppliers and all your stakeholders, so that you then become a voice that's known and a trusted voice. And again, it's just building that reputation and making sure you're being seen, you're being heard, but not borderline annoying. So you've got to really just make sure you set that tone right, and people will eventually come to you. Another way you can build and maintain your reputation is award nominations is a big one. There are so many awards that go on throughout the year, and it can be quite overwhelming, particularly for small businesses when there's only probably one or a few of you. And it's finding the time to sit down and go through what awards you think are right for you, and then actually doing the award process. But trust me, it is worth the investment, and there are actually businesses out there that will do that for you. But it's worth looking into them, and they're local councils, they do awards. There's also things like Women in Business awards with Telstra, and the Osmompreneur. There's Raw awards. There's a new one that's just come out called the Accolades, and there's also things like Innovate. And it's all really trying to encourage people to talk about their business journey and to be rewarded for it. And then once, even if you don't win, that's a really good boost for you, because you know what you're doing. And sometimes it actually identifies what you need to do as well, where there might be gaps. So things like that are really good. And if you do win, hooray, make sure everyone knows about it. Don't be shy. Make sure everyone can see that logo that you were a winner. And you'll see that on lots of websites and paraphernalia that businesses who have won awards do. And that's exactly why. It's just getting that reputation and maintaining it. And lastly is one of the big ones, and a lot of people think PR is purely media. Look, it is a large chunk of it, I'm not going to lie, but obviously the other things we've just highlighted also identify what PR is about. And so media, it's basically about getting to know your media and who will be good for you and your brand and for your business and for your clients and your customers. And it's about understanding what's happening in the media that's relevant to your industry. So being across everything. So that means reading things and commenting on social media, and also writing letters to an editor. Sometimes that's really such a great way to do it, is just to be heard. And again, it's just that reputation that you want to make sure. It always comes back to that building and maintaining your reputation. Also, it's not all about media releases. It's about that you can submit articles. A lot of publications accept contributions, not necessarily paid, about certain topics, about certain industries. And as long as it's not directly you talking about how amazing your company is, but it's quite broad, you can submit those. And again, because you're the byline and it's by you, and they'll generally put your business in there, you get to be known as that go-to person who knows about the insurance industry, who knows about beauty or whatever your industry is. So this is a really good way to actually help and build and maintain your reputation. But then on the back of that as well is also media releases, which we'll go into now, which is the one that everybody wants to know about. Sorry, before we do that though, it's about, we need to identify what PR opportunities are. And so this is, again, easier said than done, because what we think might be a PR opportunity, other people might not. And we know that based on what we are fed and what we read, and you just think, how did that get in the news? But it's worth trying everything you possibly can. So, but having a look in your plan, including this all in your plan, is identifying anything that you think could be a PR opportunity. It doesn't have to be media worthy. It just has to be something that you can use to build your reputation and maintain it with your stakeholders. And that's the key. So this could be anything from your giveaways or your sponsorships if you're involved in an event. It's making sure people know that you are doing that, particularly if you are through your newsletters, through your socials, is communicating that what you're doing, and if you're actually working with other businesses or like-minded businesses, what you're doing, because that's really important to know that you're not just going solo. You're working together, and people like that. The other thing is the partnerships, and like we were talking about my client with the Dress for Success, and that's something that's really quite a great PR opportunity, and something that's really newsworthy for the customers to know that, because it's that feel-good story. People love that, and to talk about that. Make sure don't be shy to share all of these things with all your stakeholders, including the media, which we'll get to. And also, if you're doing a speaking or a presentation gig, it's really worth making sure people know that, because you want people to come and listen to you, number one, because you are someone who knows something about in your industry, but also it gives you that, again, that reputation that you know what you're doing, you know your stuff. So make sure you talk about what you're doing and tell your stakeholders that you're being part of all these speaking and presentation gigs, because it will, again, you'll reap the benefits from it. And again, networking, it will come out of it is phenomenal. Other PR opportunities that you could come out is also if you're launching a business. Sometimes you may have a business and you've got the baby business that's then launching as well, or if it's just a brand new business you're launching, anything, that's a huge thing, or a new product, a new service. And during lockdown, we've actually noticed there's been a number of people launching podcasts, which has been quite exciting. Obviously, people have had a lot of time on their hands. And that, again, is a PR opportunity with, what the podcast is about and who the guests are and the themes. And just, again, it's that maintaining that and building that reputation. And that gives you more of a standing in your stakeholder community. And again, PR opportunities include events, again, like we were talking about. If you're attending an event, if you're part of an event, or if you're organizing an event, sometimes you could be organizing one. That's really important to make sure everyone knows about it, because you want people to come, but you also want them to tell their networks to come and to tell about it. So it's almost a bit like Chinese whispers, if you like. Another thing some people forget is when you have new findings, or if you do research. So there's a lot of businesses that do actually invest time in researching, and sometimes you find that what they do with the research is often just filed in the research folder on the share drive, but really that's actually gold nuggets for PR. So what we want to do is try and find those gold nuggets and tell your shareholders these nuggets of research and findings, to actually give you that, again, that reputation that you know what you're doing. So, for example, I work with a small not-for-profit that helps kids with cancer and their families. It supports them going through their treatment. And they did some research during COVID about the effects of COVID on families who are already under significant stress going through with their children through treatment. And they had, I think it was a couple of hundred people, but the research was really compelling, and it showed that it was, really heightened the stress and the anxiety of every member of the family. So we used that, and we went out to media about that, and they loved it. So we had some coverage on that, and also we made sure that our stakeholders knew that, and we had people coming to us say, what can we do? How can we help? So you just never know what it's going to result in. And again, we were just doing that to share, and then it's come back to us with other opportunities. So again, it's that reputation. And the last thing, there's plenty of PR opportunities in the calendar of events, or what I call awareness days or piggyback days. Now, this is one of my favorite parts of PR. Is trying to find, it doesn't have to be always about your business or your product. It's always looking at creative ways to weave your message into something. And this is where awareness days or piggyback days is really good. So by that, I mean, if, for instance, let's take Mother's Day. Mother's Day is a well-known celebration across the world, and particularly in Australia. If you have a product or a service that you know mums would like, you can jump on the back of Mother's Day. And so, if you've got a pampering company, or if you've got a holiday destination, or if it's just somewhere to take time out, a cafe, give mum a rest and send her here. There's so many ways you can do it. So you can jump on piggyback. You jump on the back of an already existing day or a week, because every day, if you start looking them up, you'll be amazed at what days are on what we celebrate on each day. Other suggestions are, you've got Father's Day and Valentine's Day, and there's also the wonderful one now that's getting bigger and bigger, is International Women's Day. There's World Animal Day, World Coffee Day. So if you own a cafe, that's one you should be jumping on if you're not already. World Teachers Day, if you have stationery or books or even fruit, is one, because we have that association with teachers and apples, for example. That's a really good way to jump on the back of that. It's really just get creative license. You have creative license to do whatever you want. If it's snow season, if you have, do you sell tea or coffee? It's a good time to get warm with your favorite coffee up in the mountains. It's that sort of thing. Just thinking really differently, and just trying to work out how you can weave your message in. One of my absolute favorite days, though, of the year, and I think it would be great if you were doing something for stress relieving or wellness, and it's actually National Bubble Wrap Day, which is at the end of January, which I haven't yet to be able to use, but I'm hoping one day I might be able to. So that will give you some ideas of what could be what because of PR opportunities. And then moving on, it's then working out how to put those PR opportunities into a media release. So, and as I said before, they're not all media release worthy, but you will, once you get started, you will work that out. There's no right or wrong. It's just working it out as you go on, because it really just does depend on who you're targeting and what you're doing. So, for example, the first and foremost, what we really need to do is find that unique angle for your story. You want to make, again, going back to our fish, you want to stand out. Media, particularly if you go to the larger outlets like the Herald Sun or the Age, for example, or any of the major news desks, they are receiving hundreds of media releases and media pitch ideas every day. So it has to be something that's different, unique, and will stand out. And so with that, the way you can do that is by using your statistics from your research we were talking about, or statistics you found that were relevant to your organization, and weave that into your messages. And this can also include what we call the ST factor. So it's using something that's the biggest, the fastest, the first, the last. It's that. And if you start reading, what I would suggest now is you really take note of what you read and what grabs your attention. I like to have a look and compare, for example, the Herald Sun, the Age, and the Australian, and you look and read what grabs your attention from each newspaper, and sometimes how the same story is written in each publication. It's so different because the audience is so different, but it's all the same. So learn your media really well and what grabs their attention. That's not just print, it's also TV, it's also radio. It's understanding, and you'll see that a lot of them have the ST factor, or it's that unique selling point. So it's that unique angle. It's like what makes you different from any other business, organization, or whatever you're doing. What makes you different? It's that unique selling point that you have to offer that gives you that competitive edge, if you like. And then it's the emotional selling point as well, which is a huge one. We all are guilty of sitting in the hairdressers and reading the 3-year-old copies of New Idea, and you get sucked in, and then you realize that it is 3 years old. But it's all because it's the triumph over adversity stories. Whether you like it or not, people do read them, and we all like them for human nature. That's what it is. So it's that emotional selling point is really a good one to have in any media release. And it's that emotional trigger that will prompt someone to, buy your product, use your service, or get to know more about your business or you even. And that's the same with the organisation we're talking about now, who are helping the kids with cancer. It's that emotional selling point. So I've just been working with them for, there's a little girl whose brother was diagnosed with a brain tumour a few years ago, and the sister's 6 and he's now 5. I think he was 18 months old. She's been growing her hair, and she's now ready to chop it because she wants to donate it for kids to donate it so that it can be made into wigs for kids, because there's not great. And we were lucky enough to have this beautiful photo of Aurora in the Herald Sun yesterday with her hair. So that tells that story. But again, that's that emotional pull. So it's just sort of finding that story, and it's that R factor. So once you've got your unique angle, it's then thinking about, you've got to have a clever headline. And again, it's what pulls you in when you read the newspapers. You will read the headline first. You won't read the first paragraph. You'll read it, and then so it's learning clever headlines. And often what I do is I don't write my headline until after I've actually written my media release. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it can change, and then I'll change it again. And so it will continually change. But sometimes it's good to write your release, and then an actual clever, catchy headline will come to you immediately. And you can, use puns. You can sort of be a bit tongue-in-cheek, depending on who you're targeting. But again, get to know your media and get to know who you're actually working with to know whether it will work. And then the next thing, sorry, I've just flicked the slide. The next thing is that first paragraph. So again, think about how you read anything, or you listen to a news grab. It's that first line or that first paragraph that sucks you in. That's what you need to do with your media release. You want a journalist or the editor or the news desk, which is incredibly busy, to be sucked in by that headline and then read that first paragraph, and you want them to know more. They want to know more. You want them to go, well, I want to know what happens and why is this happening. So the trick is actually telling them enough in that first paragraph to whet their appetite, but not enough to tell them the whole thing in that paragraph. And again, you'll get to know this. It's very tricky, but you'll get to understand it as you have more practice. And the human interest, as I was saying, is that emotional selling point. It's that triumph over adversity. That's a really good one and compelling, but it's not relevant to all businesses. But if you do have a human element, and that could even be a third-party endorsement who can talk about the amazing benefits of your product or service, because as soon as we as business owners start telling people how amazing we are, it's blowing your own trumpet. And of course, we know we're amazing, otherwise we wouldn't have our business. What that becomes the problem is then you are automatically classed as advertising. So they will automatically file it under W, and you're in the waste paper bin before you've even got past go. And we don't want that. So get those testimonials, get people talking, get whoever talks about you and who will talk about your product or service or your business, and get them in your media release and get that third party endorsement, and hopefully save yourself from the bin. Okay, so then you're starting to get your media release going, and you'll probably find that it needs to stick to one page ideally, and that's not going to like 8 points. It has to be legible. It has to be able to be read on screen, and also printed out, because they do still print things out. So you'll probably find you'll have, 6 to 8 paragraphs, depending on what the length of each paragraph is. But in all of that, you need to make sure that you have actually answered all of your 6 W's. And these are your who, your what, your where, your why, your when, and your how. Make sure you go through, and I still do this when I write something. I sit there with my list and I make sure I have my who's it about and what's happening, where is it happening, why is it happening, and go through that and make sure you have that all ticked off. And then once you have all of that, you have your complete media release. And then media have everything they need. Because what you don't want is the media to then go, well, why is it happening and when? Because then they're like, oh, this is too hard. So you want to try really hard to get as much as you can by making sure that you answer, get your 6Ws in there. And then, so then you've got your media release. And then you need to make sure that you actually include your logo. So many people don't do that because it's all part of you. It's your brand. You need to make sure that you, your reputation is there with your media release. So make it look nice, because you again want it to stand out amongst the crowd. And include your contact details of whoever is going to be the person that media can contact to get more information, or for interviews, or for photos, or filming, or anything like that. And make sure it's email and mobile, and that it's someone who is actually contactable. And then with that as well, not that you'll include it necessarily in the media release, but you can actually include images, embed images in the media release if you have space, or else you can actually just include images in an email when you send your email, which we'll talk about next, to your media outlet. So get all of that together. And this is really sort of like the basics of a media kit, if you like. So it's all part. So this is just pulling together your media kit. And then at the bottom of every media release, you need to include a short biography. Now, that's not the massive reams. This is really just a couple of paragraphs that just tells them who you are, who your business is, your social media handles, and any links that are relevant, so that they can do a little bit more research on who you are, so they know, and they will just check that you are the real deal. And so you want to do that and show that to them so that they know who you are, and they'll get to know you. And by doing that as well, there are different media avenues. So what we could talk about here is when you're writing a media release, that's because it's a proactive media release. So, sorry, that's proactive media. So that means you're actually giving the media something. But often the media will be actually asking for things. So they will put a call out. So journalists often put a call out through there's email list, email subscription called Source Bottle. There's also something called the Audacious Agency, who put out the rocket launch, weekly rocket opportunities each Wednesday. And this is basically media putting a call out to anybody who can give them what they want. So they could in mental health, and anything relevant, and you can just throw your hat in the ring to these. And so that's called reactive media. So there's proactive, which is what we're doing with the media release, and then there's reactive, and that's when, and what we're hoping is eventually is once the media get to know who you are, that they will actually come to you and say, hey, we'd like a comment on this, or because then you become known in your industry. Okay, now the next thing, once you've got your media release, it's looking good, you've got your 6Ws, you've got everything ticked off, it's then knowing what to do with it, what next. So it's actually establishing the list of media that you, and the journalists and who you need to approach. Now this can take time, but it's worth it. Again, it's worth the investment. It depends. There are obviously organisations that will provide you with lists of media, a media list that you can purchase, but it just depends what your budget is and what you're trying to achieve. Personally, I wouldn't say go out and do that first off, unless you're looking at a national campaign. If you're looking at just having a go at sort of metropolitan media, for example, you can probably do the research yourself and save yourself some money and invest that somewhere else. However, it depends on your time and your budget. But if you don't buy a list, then what you need to do is research that. And PR is a lot about research, and it's actually quite easy now to research contacts, because we've got the internet and we've got access to so many avenues to find who's the producer, who's the journalist, who's the health reporter, who's the sports reporter, who's the or anything, who's the lifestyle reporter, and it's finding out who they are, their email address and their telephone number for each outlet. And that's print, TV, radio, and online, and also podcasts too. So you need to start establishing that and start making your list. And then once you've researched all your media and you've got your journalists, sometimes it's worth actually, before you start sending a media release out, if you've got just a few media, it might be worth calling the main ones and just saying, hey, I've got this story. What do you think? Are you interested? Is it something you might be interested in? Rather than sending your media release. You need your media release there because often what they might say is, sounds great. Have you got a media release? Can you send it through? I'll put it in today, or I'll follow it up today. So you need to have it ready to go. But also they might say, great, yeah, tell me more. And they may not actually need the media release. They might just say, can you, talk to me now over the phone. The other way you can do it is you can actually send an email with just a very brief introduction, with the media release attached, and send it to the journalist that you've identified. And then it's the same thing as a pitch, what you would do if you rung them. So the email is basically you on the phone to them, if you like, and then you're actually attaching the media release so they can actually go in and find out more from the attachments. And that's when you attach your videos and your photos and really sell that story to them. And then the trick is once you've sent it, it's really hard to know whether they like it, because sometimes you might get nothing. But sometimes you might get a response straight away, which is always really exciting. But don't be disheartened. What I would suggest you do is don't be put off and don't be scared of journalists. They're just very busy and they're not to be scared of. But just give them a phone call and just say, did you receive it? Is it something you're interested in? And they might say, didn't receive it, whatever, or sorry, not interested. But don't be disheartened, because the way I look at that is that's still more people who know about you, your business, and your reputation, and you and your reputation today than they did yesterday. So it's never a lost cause, and you don't know whether they might file it and put it away and get back in touch with you at a later date. So never ever worry about whether you actually, of course, it's great, don't get me wrong, it's great to have media wins, but it's never lost. It's never a lost opportunity, because you've then also got you've got all your research, you've got everything, and you've got a media release that you can then probably use another time, adapt it, or even send out at a later date if you actually got no response from it. So it's never lost. So don't be disheartened. And so then hopefully once all this happens, you do have some wins, and then it's time to actually celebrate them. Don't be shy. Tell everybody this is amazing. This is about your baby, your business, and make sure you celebrate it and post it on socials. Tell your stakeholders what you're doing. Share it, with everybody. Print it out and frame it in your office. Whatever floats your boat, and make sure it's on your website, on everything, so that people know. And again, it's that reputation building. People say, wow. And we've all seen it. We go to websites and everyone's got a list of all the media they've appeared in, and that's impressive. So it's your chance to do that now and make sure people know where you're featuring, and then you again become that voice and the go-to person. So that's to just make sure you do celebrate your wins, because you've actually put a lot of hard work into it. So don't let it go by. And finally, I can't reiterate enough. You really need to plan. Goes back to that plan, and to keep that momentum going. You just can't leave public relations to chance. So plan. If nothing else, if you go away from this, is plan, and don't forget, from small things, little things grow, and to keep that momentum going. But above all, go and have some fun. PR is fun. Don't get too bogged down with it. And I look forward to hearing some successes and to talking through with any of you of what PR activities you've got planned, and hearing about what exciting things you've got. But now, if we've got any questions or comments, we're opening up.
Kate, that was brilliant. I got so much out of that. So if anybody's got any questions, if they want to type them in, otherwise I've got a couple of questions. You made it sound so easy, like it was just, it really was. Like, because I've had to write a couple of media releases over time, and to just put it down to The who, what, where, why, and how. That's so simple. But you know when
It is.
you've got a blank piece of paper and you think, where do I start?
Yeah, and it is, and it's not. And I think a lot of people, as soon as you say media and dealing with the media, people automatically put up a front and they get scared. Once you know, once you understand that you're absorbing, you're taking that media in yourself because you're reading it and you're hearing it all day, and it's no different. It's putting yourself in the shoes of what people want. So once you understand that and you take that fear away, you can actually have lots of fun with it. It's actually
Yeah.
really, it's good
So
fun.
how can you get help companies or businesses rather?
Sorry, what was that?
So how do you help? Do you write the media releases? Do you point out the opportunities? Like how can you help a business?
Yeah, so there's different ways I do it. So I will work. So predominantly, as I said, I work with small businesses and help with women in business predominantly. And I look at ways. I have people different things. Different people come to me for different things, but the majority of it is really they may have started their own PR and just really need some help, and it's looking at opportunities, it's looking at creative ways, and it's that momentum. So they've done that, they've started, and then they've got to that sort of dead end and not sure where to go then, and that's only because they haven't got a plan. So
Mm.
I will help people pull together a plan, and then the plan isn't set in stone by any means, and I always say this: it's just a reference document. That when you actually get to the end of a road that you've explored with PR, then you've got this plan to go back to and go, okay, so now it's time, let's go down this avenue because we haven't gone down this one yet. And it's just making sure that, and that's what I do a lot with my clients is I do write media releases, but I also help them with like the partnerships things and just creative way, looking at very creative ways to help them tell their business story to their target market in a cost-effective way as well. Because obviously I'm working with people with very limited budgets too. We'd all love a Coca-Cola budget, but we don't have one. So it's looking at that. So it's just sort of thinking out of the box. Which when you're that close to something, it's your business, it's hard to do that. So sometimes it's easier to have someone to come in who doesn't know it and to just say, have you thought about this and what about that? So yeah.
And plus, you'd have the context too, wouldn't you? I mean, it's all very well to say, you can search on the internet, but you don't know what you're looking for. So, someone like you would already know the people and the email addresses and the contacts.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's years of building up. Again, it's years of building up my reputation in public relations and my reputation with media. That doesn't happen overnight. So again, the media, what I'm saying, what I've just said in that presentation is exactly what I have to do for myself. People have to trust me as a public relations person to know, if they see something land in their inbox, I could be treated just like any other Joe Blow. But if once they get to know me, they might look at it more. It's that again. It's that momentum, and it's keeping in touch with them, and it's doing things out. It's outside of just selling them stories all the time. It's just keeping in touch and seeing what they're working on. Can you help with anything? Or you don't have to just continually go to them with stories. You can just say, hey, what's got anything happening? Do we need anything? Can I help you with anything? They're only human, and they're just trying to earn some money like all of us. So.
Do you have a favourite PR campaign that you've worked on?
Oh my goodness, that's a good one. I don't have a favorite. I've got lots of. Oh, that's a really tricky one
Yeah,
actually.
threw
I
that
don't.
one at you. Didn't give you
Wow,
any.
that came. No, you didn't give me any notice on that. I've actually worked on. I suppose for me, because with agencies, I have worked in agencies and bigger offices where you work on bigger campaigns. But I actually like working. For me, I like actually working with the smaller companies because then you get to. It's a bit more exciting and it's way more hands on. I do love working. Not for profits is one of my favorite areas. Like I was saying about the not for profit that I'm working with at the moment with kids with cancer, and it's such a beautiful thing to work on and to be able to help spread those stories. So you get some exciting things. So for example, with that story, we've had the Herald Sun today, and then tomorrow morning I'm off to Studio 10 to do filming where this little Aurora is actually getting her hair cut live
Oh,
on.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and
lovely.
that sort of thing. Yeah. So that sort of thing, I think it's, for me, it's not necessarily campaigns, it's individual things that we've done for
Yeah,
different businesses.
yeah,
So things like that, it's really great. And it's just to see the sheer delight of the small businesses. They're so humble and so excited to get their name anywhere.
mm,
But the sky's the limit, it's never ending. So that's what
yeah,
makes it really exciting.
yeah. You've just got to, like you said, big things may grow from small things. And um, I did have a question, like off the side. What is National Bubble Wrap Day?
Well, I don't know. This is the thing I've come up with, and it's basically when you go on and you do a research of, just say, a Google search for awareness days, it comes up with a monthly calendar
Right.
of all these different awareness days.
Mm,
And one that I've always thought is hilarious is there's actually a day dedicated to bubble wrap.
mm,
I don't know why, but if you, like I said, I'd love, if it was someone to do with wellness, I always think bubble wrap's really good if you're really stressed. So I think that would be a really good one to actually
yeah.
just jump on the back of and sort of say, we can help you with your stress on National Bubble
Mm,
Wrap Day. Forget the bubble wrap, we can help you. It's something like that. I don't know, but I think it's there's days for everything, and it
oh,
does
there
get
are.
really crazy. But the media loves those. They love the piggyback things as well, and feeding that in, because it's that human interest again. It's that human side. So anything
Yeah.
that
And it's
sort of
always
makes
about the
people
photo
go,
too, isn't it? When you've got a photo that evokes emotion, like you said, that little girl, um, yeah, that's what
yes,
stops you to go and read something and take action and you know, read more or, do whatever. So now, how do
exactly,
people
exactly.
contact you?
They can contact me. I need to. What's the best way to do this? I've got on my email or my phone. Probably email is probably best. Is it easier to type it
Well, we'll put your
in
contact
here, or
details
is it?
after this video. We'll upload it to
Yeah,
YouTube, and we'll pop it in the other group as well, and put your details in there so people can contact you.
yeah, terrific. Absolutely. And look, I'm very happy to, and also I'd love to offer anyone from Women of Whitehorse a special as well, to actually just brainstorm a special rate. So for $75, I'm happy to sit down for an hour or so with you, any of the Women of Whitehorse members, to just brainstorm the PR and just look at ways that you can actually put your plan together. And within an hour, you can actually get the basics of a plan. And so I'm happy to sit down with anyone who wants to chat that through, or just touch base with me by email or phone, and happy to chat through some ideas, or just get you on the right track. But yeah, I think it's anybody who's really keen to do their own PR, I think go for it. It's so exciting and it's really rewarding.
Mm,
So anyone I can help and handhold to do that, absolutely, I'd love to hear from them.
fantastic. Well, I'd like to thank you so much, Kate. We had no technical issues tonight, thank goodness. We made it all the way through. So thank you so much for your time. That was absolutely fantastic. It doesn't look like anyone's popping any questions in, but look, they may have some later when we put this up through the group. But look, it was fantastic to have you on board tonight. Appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having me. Take care. See you
Okay,
soon.
thanks, Kate. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.